skin of their body. Like,
we're guys.
Wait.
Live.
Oh, did it work?
Did it work?
All right. Well, just in time before I ditched and went to audio only. Got to hear from our intro, and then we will be right back talking all things.
If the intro breaks it.
Why bother with empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket? With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show in your pocket.
Y'all ready?
Welcome, Fish Stripes family. We are doing Fish Stripes live. We are back. We've had technical difficulties, but StreamYard loves us. We want to give you the show, and here we are. And what a show we have planned for you today. First, we are presented by Loop. That's Loop, L-O-U-P-E. And, well, let's get straight to it. First, let's introduce our panel for today. We have Isaac Azut, Kevin Barral, Eli Sussman, Hector Rodriguez. We have two Alexes here today. Alex Kirchick, Fish on the Farm, Alex Carver, and Noah Berger. And what topics we have for you today. The first one we have to discuss is the newly acquired Jorge Soler that the Marlins got for 3 years, $36 million with an option for the first and second year. So I'm going to just throw it to the floor. You guys discuss. We got new Jorge Soler, outfielder, World Series MVP. What are your guys' thoughts?
Oh, look at Jorge. This is awesome. Well, they didn't get the center fielder, but this was the next best option. You would assume that this was Plan B under Kim Ng's terms, but few people in Major League Baseball hit the ball as hard as this young man does. So it's a good signing. The only peculiar part of it are the opt-outs after years 2 and 3. And it's a 3-year, $36 million.
1 and 2.
After years 1 and 2. You're right. I'm sorry about that. And so, that's if he has a great year like Aram on the Spaces mentioned, you'd probably go back on the market after the 22 season. But for now, I think he's betting on himself to have a great year and hopefully hit some at least 30, 35 homers for Miami.
Kim was talking to us today, and she pretty much was hinting at the fact that he was Plan A. He said that Jorge Soler was on their radar from before the lockout. I'm giving you what he told.
If Soler was Plan A, I'd be very shocked.
That was baloney, but that's very
I'm sure that's what she said.
Yeah.
But no one's ever said, well, he was Plan B. We don't really want him to be here, but I guess this is what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, this signing is really good for the Marlins. I mean, we obviously wanted the center fielder, but this is Plan B. In my opinion, this was Plan B the whole time. If they couldn't get Reynolds or Laureano or whoever, this is the guy they wanted, and they got him. I mean, you're putting him at left field or in DH. That's another log jam now that you added yourself, but it's a good situation to have, as I think we've reiterated many times. Now you have the log jam at first, at DH. So once one of those gets settled, then everything will be a little bit easier to handle. But this is a good signing. This guy has a lot of raw power. If we could get 2019 Jorge Soler, who hit 48 bombs, I think we will be very happy with the product, and he'll definitely put himself out in the market again, hopefully to get a bigger contract, because if it wasn't for this guy, the Braves probably maybe would have gone into a Game 7 possibly of the World Series, because he hit that absolute monstrous bomb in Game 6, if I'm correct. So this is a good signing for Miami. The defense isn't all there, but this is definitely a guy who's going to attract fans as well as a Cuban player. That's something that Kim Ng, I think, mentioned, or it was Bruce Sherman, one of the two. He mentioned it himself that he's finally going to be able to see, he's going to have his family there to watch him play a lot more often. So this is a great signing overall, and hopefully it works out.
I was surprised when I looked it up that there had only been 9 Cuban-born players in Marlins history, and most of them are, I think, as Isaac would say, crust. just like not prominent players for the most part. Of course, the exceptions being Levon, being Jose Fernandez, and and really none of them had substantial major league experience when the Marlins acquired him, or like a lot of major league success. So even the ones that did pan out were ones that they signed straight out of the draft or straight out of internationally. And so this is obviously something that's brand new to have somebody that's already super accomplished. You can question exactly how he will age moving forward, but the fact that he has the World Series MVP on his resume, he has that huge 2019 season on his resume, people are deservedly very excited. In fact, I just got an email about finishing up our Solar Power t-shirt that we will soon be making available for people to enjoy.
I think what you want, Kevin, obviously 2019 Jorge Soler would be amazing, but in terms of more recently, I think you want Atlanta Braves Jorge Soler and not Kansas City Royals Jorge Soler. So, yeah, this guy's going to strike out a lot. He's very limited defensively. He's actually quite bad defensively, if I am being quite honest. But me and Isaac and all of you guys heard when Ang and Sherman spoke for the first time after the lockout ended that they wanted a bat. And this is definitely bat first. There is no true center fielder on this team. Apparently, it's going to be Jesus Sanchez from what Don Mattingly said today, which is also interesting, but we can talk about that later. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of power, it's great. What else does he do? I don't know. If you can get a little bit of average out of him, that's great. I would kind of temper my expectations. But if he puts out 30 home runs, then you can overlook a 200 to 250 batting average. So, we'll see what he does. The opt-outs, as Isaac mentioned, are definitely interesting. Is he completely bought into what the Marlins are doing? Well, you give him an opt-out at one in each of his first 2 seasons of a 3-year contract. My opinion would be he's not. But, hey, whatever. He's here now. See what he does. I think it's power or nothing, honestly. Anyways.
And the one thing I wanted to mention is, I mean, if Miami doesn't want to block Burdick and Blade, this contract makes it very obvious that they don't want to block him, because if this guy opts out year 1 or 2, Burdick and Blade are easily going to come up. And, I'd like to see Soler play all 3 years in Miami. I think we all would like it and get 3 productive years. But if that's what Miami really wants, to not block Burdick and Blade, that contract really showed it, because you're opting out of year 1 or year 2, which says a lot.
By the way, to end on him, I like how Isaac called him a young man, and he's much older than Isaac. Anyways, go ahead.
30 years old.
Jorge Soler, obviously, when you think of Jorge Soler, you think of tremendous power. He's probably got more raw power than anybody else in the league. You can argue that no one can hit the ball as hard as him. So this is a guy that obviously adds a ton of power to your offense. Even in the big ballpark like Lone Depot Park, he's probably going to be a 30 home run guy if he stays healthy and if everything goes well. Defense-wise, defense in the outfield defense is going to be an adventure. I think your infield defense is pretty solid, especially on the left side with Brian Anderson and Miggy Rowe, and also behind the plate with Jacob Stallings. You probably got the best defensive catcher in baseball there. But your outfield is going to have to produce offensively, because you're probably not going to get much value defensively. Maybe Jesus Sanchez turns out to be a decent glove out in the outfield. I think he's a good enough athlete. And I know early in his minor league career, he was a center fielder, but I think that's when he was like a teenager. So, we'll see how quickly he readjusts to center field. But, I mean, honestly, Jorge Soler, not a bad signing. Obviously a lot of people, just won World Series MVP. So it's never a bad thing to add a World Series MVP to your roster, a guy that, in the biggest of moments, he came through for, even though a lot of you guys don't like the Braves, he's a huge part for why the Braves are the world champs.
Dare I bring up Brian De La Cruz?
No. We're good.
No. Take a seat.
All right. Are you guys ready to move on to the next topic, or do you guys want to keep going on Soler?
I can talk about Brian De La Cruz for hours, but if you guys want to move on,
let's mute
I think we have to talk about probably the guy that really impressed most Marlins fans so far in spring training, and that's former first-round pick Max Meyer. He was lights out in his debut a couple of days ago, and just he dominated through most of his time, 4 innings, 5 Ks. Just what did you guys see from Max Meyer getting his taste against MLB veterans and going up against the Mets?
You were there, no?
So I was there. I couldn't really see much because I had the Fenway seat in the press box. But from the reactions of the Mets press corps, who were all like, dang, this guy's good. I'm pretty excited to see what Max Meyer can do. He, from the replays I saw, because again, couldn't see, he looked really sharp, and he carries himself with a very, very large. It's the words are escaping me. He's very confident, and he's very true to himself.
He has a chip on his shoulder.
No, I wouldn't say a chip on his shoulder, but he's very true to himself in that he's not where he wants to be, even though he's amazing. So I'm having trouble with words right now. I apologize.
But what I saw and one of the only benefits to watching on TV when you have a pitcher as nasty as Max Meyer is you can see everything. Well, actually, no, you could in some of the replays that I saw posted on Twitter, his slider that people have been harping on since he got drafted is just as good as advertised, and he was doing it against major league talent, and that's what stood out to me. And it was funny, we had a Spaces a couple days ago, and his former high school came in and said he's been able to throw that pitch exactly how he wants since he was a sophomore in high school. That's ridiculous. To have a secondary pitch develop that early. And his third pitch, what impressed me about his third pitch, the changeup, it's the thing that is going to keep him in the minors for a little bit longer. I think it's going to be the reason that he's not in the opening day lineup is because of that changeup that he hasn't quite mastered yet. But even that changeup seemed to get better as the game went on. I was very impressed to see that. Yeah,
and just to speak on the changeup, it looked a lot better than it had in ending the year in AAA last year. It looked phenomenal. Not only Max Meyer, we are talking about him, but the entire starting staff so far. All the Marlins pitchers have gone great starts to spring training. Pablo pitched 2 near perfect innings. Sandy 7 innings so far, not a single blemish other than a Juan Soto home run, so you can't really fault him for that. Luzardo looked great. Meyer looked great. It's really it's good to see, and it's refreshing to see like all these starting pitching that Miami's been talking about all off season long and really show up here in spring training.
And this is Max Meyer. This is Meyer going up against major leaguers. It's not the New York Mets team that we're going to see in opening day, but these are guys who've been in the major leagues, have had major league experience, and Meyer's dominating these guys. I mean, what was it? 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. Perfect game. Didn't allow hit, didn't allow walk. This is not, I mean, man, I want to see this guy in the rotation soon. And I already made my bold prediction on Unfiltered. I'll let you guys listen to that Friday, but Max Meyer's the real deal, man. I could see why so many teams are asking for him.
I think Craig made an interesting point. Like, he's going to be up at some point this year. It's almost a guaranteed certainty. It would be really fun to just see him have that Josh Hader type role on this team. I know that they're going to put him in the rotation to start, for a long time, but that would be a dominant, sort of right-handed Josh Hader, like Craig mentioned, on swings and misses, to just come out of the bullpen, pitch 2 to 3 innings, Andrew Miller type thing. I think that would really, that's worst case scenario for a guy like Max Meyer. He would look mighty impressive.
I told you guys last week on this same show that my bold prediction, which doesn't look that bold anymore, I don't think, but time, I guess it was, that Max Meyer will make this starting rotation by the end of the year as a starting pitcher. And the reason that I said that is because what he showed is fantastic to show it against major league players. Kevin, you said that. Alex, you also said that is great. I mean, it wasn't Pete Alonso. It wasn't any of the big hitters. I don't think Lindor was in there. It wasn't really any of their big guys, right? But still, I mean, these guys have major league experience, and this guy is in his second year pro, and he's effective against guys that have major league experience. That's really big. And even though it's spring training, everybody's working on something. That's really big that Meyer can go in and allow 1 ball out of the infield and show 3 pitches. Great. Amazing. Fantastic. Can't say enough, but he's been doing this to minor league hitters for an entire season, and pretty damn easily too, in AA and AAA. So you're right, Alex. The changeup is what needs to gain consistency. I think you saw flashes of it a little bit in this outing. It wasn't good at first, but he stuck with it, kept throwing it, and it looked a little bit better. Where he's missing with it, he's missing low. So he's not missing up. That's what you want to see. If you're going to miss low and put it out of the strike zone. When you're missing up, that shows you have no feel. So he does have feel for that pitch. I say it again and again. He had it in college, just needs to dust it off because he didn't need it there. So that's his thing. I think by midseason, he will have that pitch completely 100% back. And then it'll be the waiting game. And when do they call him up? When do they not? So, yeah, I mean, that guy is filthy. He's ridiculous. The fact that he can throw that slider 2 completely different ways. I mean, everybody says, oh, without the changeup, he only has 2 pitches, but really he has 3 already, and he's adding in the changeup. So watch out, boys. This guy's good. He's here. It sucks that they didn't get Brian Reynolds, but man, are you that upset that they dealt him after looking at this guy pitch? I would say, the pressure's off a little bit. Anyways.
One of the things I do love about him is the way he finishes his delivery in a fielding position, like perfectly ready to receive a ball at him, which happened twice in the game. So I think that's going to bode well for him down the road.
That's Stallings, right?
I think
he threw mostly to Jackson. I think he threw 1 inning to Stallings, and the rest were to Jackson.
It was 2-2. I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to look at the box score. I just saw. I know in the highlights I saw a lot of Jackson. It might have been 2-2, but yeah.
I'm looking it up.
And you look at who he's facing. It. I mean, some of these guys can make that opening day lineup. I saw JD Davis a while ago. Dominic Smith.
Yeah, the big names are Tomas Nido, Dominic Smith, JD Davis, and who's the other major league?
Guillorme.
Yeah, Guillorme.
Yeah.
Guillorme. Yeah. So it was half like a real lineup, but it was kind of like the bottom half of the.
Right. Yeah, no, like I said, it wasn't Alonso, no Lindor. It wasn't their heavy hitters, but still, that's still very, very impressive to show that.
I'm excited to see more of his spring training starts, especially probably. They play tomorrow. We don't know if he's going to pitch.
Well, yeah, I don't know if he'll start a game, but he'll definitely have another outing.
He'll have another.
Maybe he'll do what he did like last time.
By the way, tomorrow's game is probably not going to be played. There is a 95% chance of flooding rain in Port St. Lucie.
Oh, they're going to Port St. Lucie.
So for Max Meyer, I have a question for you guys, for the panel. What is his ceiling? What is his highest potential? Can Max Meyer be an all-star, Cy Young Award winner, the Marlins' #1 starter in a couple of years? What is Max Meyer's ceiling, his top potential, would you say?
Number 3 starter right now? I mean,
it's a tough question.
I think he's a frontline starter on
his top right now.
Well, no, in the future. I'm talking about like future projecting
all the way. Yeah.
If we're talking like projecting, I think he could be a frontline starter. I think his floor is he's going to be an excellent closer. I think that's his floor because he already has 2 really, really good pitches. During the draft, we really didn't know much about this guy. The only thing that we knew about him is, he was the only pitcher in that draft class that had 2 pitches that were graded 65 or 70 and above, and that was his fastball and slider. And you could see why. I mean, he'd had no issues with major league talent. And even the guys that weren't major league talent or not major leaguers, they're top prospects like Khalil Lee and Mark Vientos. They're still, guys that the Mets are counting on in the future. But it was just like he went through them like it was nothing. His attitude on the mound was like, I've done this before. He didn't seem overwhelmed by, a major league, I'm stepping on a major league mound, stepping on a major league, facing major league hitting. He just, saw him like, hey, this is just another day of the office. Let me show you what I can do, and just mowed them down. I mean, I expected Max to do pretty well, but I didn't expect that type of performance. I mean, he didn't make, there were some guys that did hit him a little bit hard, but right at people. But for the most part, Max was just, he had no issues with the Mets lineup.
The pitcher on the other side, he's got to be looking up to him, seeing Max Scherzer on the other side of the field pitching against his team.
He did. You know what? It's funny you brought that up.
He pitched better than Max Scherzer.
I do remember correctly, during one of Meyer's first interviews with the Marlins organization in 2020, when he was asked specifically about who do you model your game after, he kind of gave like a deflection non-answer, but he did mention one name in there kind of about the mentality, not about the stuff, but just about the approach to the game. And he mentioned Max Scherzer. I hope I can find that.
Looks like it a lot, yeah.
He definitely did by name mention Max Scherzer.
I do wonder if they spoke to each other at all on Monday.
Yeah,
probably
not.
Probably not.
To be fair, a lot of young pitchers say
Scherzer would probably look in cars like, screw you, you just beat my team.
Yeah, Max Scherzer probably might be number one on the list of guys.
I will say, Jacob Stallings in the box against Max Scherzer might be the funniest thing to watch because Jacob Stallings takes a while to get in the box, and Max Scherzer is like, "Hurry up!"
Yeah, just on Max, when we're talking about his ultimate ceiling, I think the one question I would have is whether his command is ever like a really big asset for him, and that's the one thing that unless you have ridiculous stuff like Sandy does. His stuff isn't quite on that level with all of his pitches. You need some way to compensate for it. And yeah, I haven't seen his command be something that's all that special. His control is good. The fact that there were stretches, even especially at the end of last year, even when he moved up to AAA, in terms of avoiding walks and hit batsmen and all that stuff. I mean, that's a small part of it. But unless his command is really awesome, then eventually big league hitters are still going to do damage against his fastball if they get into the right counts, or if you just face a Juan Soto, or if you just face somebody that's exceptionally talented. There's not much you can do unless you put it pinpoint in the right place. That's one thing that it's hard for me to envision him as like a Cy Young candidate unless he, through hard work and determination, he just is able to locate more precisely than he ever has before. But I agree with you guys totally on the floor and on the realistic expectation. The realistic expectation is not a reliever. It's him as a bona fide starter. Like, that is fair to expect that from him based on what we've seen. It's super exciting to have him in that position to really live up to his high draft position.
Yeah. Yep.
I think now that brings us to our next topic, and that's arbitration. Marlins did sign a bunch of guys back on arbitration, settling guys with Brian Anderson, John Birdie, Garrett Cooper, Dylan Flora, Eliezer, but not settling with different guys, and especially two guys that they brought in new, in Jacob Stallings and Joey Wendle, and then also Pablo Lopez and Jesus Aguilar going to arbitration court. Just what do you guys think about, first, the players that they did settle with and then have to go to arbitration court? New guys like Wendle and Stallings. That kind of says a lot that they're not ready to settle with just guys they already brought in, especially Stallings, who won a Gold Glove and is looking to be, the best catcher right now for the Marlins. Just what are your thoughts on these cases and also the court appearances we're going to get now from these four players?
Well, I think we should start with.
Yeah,
I'm glad they got the cases settled with the ones that already did. Cooper, Birdie, Dylan Flora, those guys. Aguilar and the rest of these guys, if I'm correct, it was by like margins of less than $1 million that they couldn't settle on, which, it's a little bit disappointing. But I'm most surprised, I guess, all four guys. I'm very surprised they didn't get deals done, because those are technically the guys that you would assume, especially Stallings and Wendle, maybe would get something because they're new to the team or whatever it is. But Aguilar, I think, is the one that stands a little bit out to me a little more, because they did try to keep him. And now you start to think, are you going to trade the guy? Are you going to move him? And then Pablo is just another weird one as well, which I thought they were going to get it done. But the margins were just by less than $1 million, which was very, a little bit disappointing.
For the margins, Aguilar filed at $7,750,000. Marlins filed at $7 million. For Pablo Lopez, he filed for $3 million. Marlins filed at $2.45. Stallings filed at 3.1, Marlins at 2.45, and then Wendle filed at close to $5 million, and the Marlins filed all the way down to 4.35. So those are the numbers that they filed for, and I think the one really surprises me.
Well, I think the one with Pablo was maybe a little bit expected, because he's just so hard to gauge, just injury concerns and how dominant he can be when healthy. And it hasn't come together yet. He hasn't pitched more than 110 innings in his career. So I think that was the one where maybe, they might see differently regarding a salary for 2022. So that was one that wasn't too surprised. It's surprising in the sense because Paulo is such a nice, human being. You don't want them to be disagreeing with each other. But I think Paulo was the one where it might be tough to correctly indicate how much he would be earning in 2022.
I think the Wendle and Stallings ones are very interesting. These guys just got here. You just signed them, or they're brand new. They just put on the jersey. And the way that arbitration works, if you go to a hearing, is the player and their agent talk about every reason that they're good, and then the other side talks about the reasons that they're bad. So these are brand new players to the organization, and you're going to go into a courtroom and say everything that you don't like about them. So it's kind of ridiculous to think about it, but I guess that's where they're at. I mean, they're going to court. So, and it's very, Eli's brought this up. It's going to happen in the middle of the season. So even worse for players, they're going to have to break their routine to go to these hearings. I think bad. That's a bad look. It's a bad look for Aguilar too. Who's been here for a while, but I mean, with him at least, he can kind of expect that. He knows what to expect from this organization. But man, to do it with two brand new guys, that's really, really, that's a tough look, man. I don't know.
And it's happened before, like with Miami.
Yeah.
The most recent time that I remember was Matt Latos. His first season here in 2015. They had to go to hearing. And, he's got an interesting personality. And there are some high names, big names that have signed with teams or been traded teams, and their first season back in the spring training, they have to deal with this hearing, and that's just something you want to avoid.
Right.
And especially with Miami.
Yeah, usually it's before, when there's not a delay because of the CBA. It's before the season, right? But now it's during the season. And I don't know where it is. I think it's in one of two places. I don't know where it is this year. If it's in Florida, I guess that's a little bit better. If I think it's the other places in Arizona. If it's in Arizona, that's a little bit worse. But
either way, it's not going to be in Miami. Yeah. These guys do have to go to. Right. It's going to be north somewhere. I think in the Tampa area, or all the way out in Arizona.
It still sucks, right? Yeah.
I've heard before that, like, I think it was Scott Boras. He was on the Starting Nine podcast. That sometimes, like, you can actually have your players avoid arbitration because of how awkward it is. Like how awkward it is for, the other team, the team that you play for, that you try to, win for every day, for them to be bashing you just so that relationship doesn't get ruined.
Right, Hector. And how much worse is that? Like I was saying, if it's two guys that just got here, they haven't seen him play in their uniform.
That's why Boras, I know Boras has said in the past, he's told guys, hey, I'll handle it. Don't come in because it's just going to make things worse. So I'm wondering if that's something that they can do. If it's just, hey, have the agents there so that way, especially guys like Stallings and Wendle who, just got there and, hey, you traded it for me and now you're telling me why I suck and why I don't deserve this money. It's a steep hill. And I mean, look, right now the White Sox and Giolito, they're barking at each other over like $50,000. That's
my point. The differences where they're at, their gaps are so small. Especially, I think in Wendell's case, they're small. But you look at a team like the Aaron Judge and the Yankees, they have a $4 million difference. I know you add up all these differences, Eli, that it adds up to a lot.
Well, I want to jump in there just because it varies from player to player. So the guys I really feel for here are Pablo. Who is it? It's Pablo. It's really Pablo and Stallings that jump out as the guys who are first time arbitration eligible. They're not rich guys yet. This is by far their biggest payday. This will like more than double their career earnings, and they want to get it right because it also sets the bar for potential next year's in arbitration. Mm-hmm. This figure, it follows you for the next few years afterwards if you're fortunate enough to still be a big leaguer afterwards. So and with Agui on the other side of it, I mean, he's gone through it a few times before. He lives more comfortably, but also he's the type of player as a first baseman DH type that usually doesn't age very gracefully. Like it is a real possibility that this is the highest salary he ever gets, and that just a reality of him and the position he plays, the demographic he's in. With Wendle, his number came in a little higher than anybody expected. He was really milking the all-star selection, I think. Like that's part of it is the awards that you win that go beyond the stats.
I guarantee you, Stallings was using the Gold Glove. Hey, I was the best.
Right.
Pay me more money. The Stallings numbers where you don't really hit. There's not a lot of offensive first catchers. So guess what? When it comes to defense, there's nobody better than me. So pay me like a top of the line catcher because I'm a decent bat at. He's probably a decent bat, above average.
He's shown a lot.
But how long? And he wasn't a bad hitting catcher last year. I mean, he's like 250.
No, he's not a bad hitting catcher.
Right, but that's right. You're right. But my point is here. How long has he been good at the major league level? And it was only last season. I mean, the guy passed for waivers 2 times, right? So I mean,
that's why he's trying to cash in now because you never know.
Right, he wants $3 million. Honestly, I think the Marlins will probably win that case if as they will go to with him. I think the Marlins will probably win his case, but everything together, like I said, it's just weird to trade for 2 guys and say, hey, we're going to court. It's odd. Anyways.
So do you think that his age has a problem with it, with Stallings being, around 32, 33 years old? Do you think maybe if he was 5 years younger, the Marlins would be okay giving him that extra couple $1,000?
Well, with him, this is just a total guess on my part, not informed by sources or anything like that. But I feel like Stallings they may avoid a hearing here with a multi-year deal with an extension because they traded for him not only as the 2022 catcher, even with the age concern, I guess, like they penciled him in for multiple years when they made this trade. He's going to be here. And I just cannot imagine, for all the reasons you stated, them wanting to go through a hearing with him, knowing how important they feel he is. So he, among these 4 guys, is the one that I think maybe they reach a deal with before the hearing in the form of a multi-year deal. That's either 2 years or 3 years. Nothing crazy, just to like give them cost certainty for the next few years, because they're planning on him being their starting catcher the next few years. That is my just pure guess.
And what
something
about
that
Pablo?
would make sense.
You think Pablo, it's similar boat? Maybe they just cost certainty with him because, like I said, his number would fluctuate a lot. And then whether he is healthy, maybe.
But
Pablo's just concerned because of that health. I mean, he's never had a full season. 2020, we could say, was most consistent season because he didn't land on the COVID IL list. But besides that, 2019, he didn't pitch that much. 2021, he missed half the season. So you look at it, I think the Marlins may win that one at the end of the day. But, man, Pablo, I think all these guys really deserve that money because they've shown a lot. Agui won MVP 2 years in a row for the Marlins. I mean, Stallings is a Gold Glover, Wendle's an All-Star, and Pablo's just proven himself to be that number 2 guy in the rotation. So let's hope they all settle with the amount they want.
Let's take a break. Well, go ahead, Hector.
I'm wondering, like, what if this arbitration, because Agui is a guy that might be dealt, because of the logjam at first base. If they decide that, hey, we're going to keep Luis Diaz in the big league level, then you're probably going to move Jesus Aguilar because this is his final year of control. Does them going to court, does that possibly, increase his chances of getting traded? I'm not saying he should get traded. I'm just saying that might be a possibility for them because if they do, because they are, at least a couple of years ago, they were extremely high on Luis Diaz. If you're that high on him and you want to see him get, be the player that you want him to be, he's got to get at bats in the major league level. He can't, rot in AAA. You're going to have to get him consistent ABs. And also, he's a great glove. So, even, and he provides some power, but he's not the type of hitter, at least right now, that Aguilar is.
Yeah, with these guys, the fact that they're in this situation with Agui, that's a whole other conversation about why they probably should have traded Aguilar earlier in the offseason if they were really concerned about that, rather than letting it fester to this point and making it super complicated.
I was going to say, I think that ship has sailed with Aguilar. I think they're going into 2022 with him at first base and late in the minors, which is, frustrating. But I think that's just the situation they put themselves in.
That guy has nothing to prove in the minors. It sucks.
I think so.
Because Lewin is so talented.
Lewin doesn't have any more options.
After this year.
Yeah. Out of the 3 catchers, out of the 3 first basemen, he's probably the best defensively, and that really sucks that he has to stay in the minors because
let's be real.
I don't know. Williams Astudillo looked pretty good at first today.
Oh, stop it, Noah.
Break. That's a break. We're breaking.
That's a break. We're going to come back on the other side of the break with something a little bit.
You're welcome.
That's it. And he's difficult.
See you in 30 seconds.
Why bother with empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket? With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show in your pocket.
Remember, we are presented by Loop. Fish Stripes Live, presented by Loop. That's Loupe. Now, after the break, we just came back. There is another contract the Marlins did sign, and that is relief pitcher Richard Bleier. 2 years, $6 million. He has been really consistent with the Marlins, having an ERA under 3. Just really quick thoughts on signing a 34-year-old to a 2-year deal.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't think we expected that to happen. Honestly, I mean, funny enough, we were all of us were talking. All of a sudden, Danny Alvarez breaks the news. So happy for Richard. He's gonna get his year. Eli, I think, knows how the contract works a little bit more. But when it comes to Richard Bleier as the player, I mean, he's came in big in the high leverage situations. I'll forever remember bases loaded against the Mets. He struck out the side. So that's one that we could remember. And he's a ground ball guy. I mean. That's what they made a whole YouTube video on the guy, why he's one of the better ground ball pitchers in the league. So I'm happy he's back on the team, man, because he's probably one of our best relievers, and especially this season. And unfortunately, the day of his contract extension was announced, the Cardinals pretty much hit on the guy everywhere. But besides that, great pitcher, and I'm happy for the guy.
Shout out to
he was not happy about it.
Shout out to Foolish Baseball, the YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to them. They were the ones that did the Richard Blyer video.
Great video.
So,
Great
do you
video.
think this is our relief, quote unquote, relief pitcher signing? Is a contract extension to a 34-year-old, almost 35-year-old Richard Blyer?
Well, I think they're set, not because of that, but it looks like that they're satisfied with what they have going into 2022, which is a little.
They did move Nick Neidert to the bullpen,
right?
And they have guys like Bender, Bass.
I think they're taking all that into consideration with their in-house options. I think according to Craig, the two guys who were options, were Richard Rodriguez and the other one, not really interested. I think it's Mark Melanson. So I think they're going to go with what they have in-house. And, if they have to, they'll mix and match with some guys in the rotation and bullpen. But I think they're done in that case.
Yeah, bullpen's weak. It's the weakness. I mean, you can talk about center field. They need – I would say they would need multiple pieces in the bullpen to really be considered a true contender. But Blyer is solid. I mean, you guys say he's 34. He's actually going to be 35 in less than a month. So you're talking about this guy being here until he's almost 37 years old, but he doesn't throw hard. If he's commanding, he's getting ground balls, and that's what you want. I mean, he can eat innings. He's not a closer. He's not a high leverage guy. He's not flashy, but he gets outs, right? And you need guys like that on your team. So for $6 million, why not?
Don't give me money. I'll spend it.
They gave it to him.
I wonder how he's going to spend his money. That would be a good question to ask. Anyway,
I was okay. You know what, Alex? You knew I've been trying to ask him that question.
Ask him that question. You're there now. You can ask him that question.
He'll like it.
They keep having pitchers meetings during the media availability.
All right, I'm sure you can get it in somewhere, Noah. You'll be okay. Anyways, yeah. Keep getting the ground balls, man. Didn't look great. Was that today, right? Or yesterday? Didn't look great at all. Way too much strike zone, and the Cardinals teed off. And that's the risk with him. If he's catching too much strike zone and not at the corners and not low in the zone, he's going to get hit. That didn't happen last year. It happened in spring training. Hopefully that's just him working on his stuff. But we'll see, man. He's a funny guy. He's a personality. Probably the oldest guy on the team without looking at it, I would probably say. So, yeah, you need guys like that, like I said. Not flashy, but I'm glad that he's still around.
If the Marlins are going to upgrade internally, which is something I've said, the first guy that should have been in that bullpen is Jordan Holloway. I'm disappointed with that they still want him to be a starter. Craig mentioned Will Stewart. I never thought I would hear that name in a long time, but
He pitched on Saturday.
It's not.
Yeah, he looked good on Saturday.
He looked good too. Yeah.
Really well, but I'm still
now Nider, which is one I've been saying for a while that they should definitely put him in the bullpen because there's just no room in that starting rotation since it's so packed. But the Marlins know what they're doing, and it looks like they're going to do it internally. So we'll see what happens.
Let me ask you guys a quick question. I was reading on Twitter, and supposedly there might be some people in the White Sox might not be, thrilled with the way Krimble's been looking, or what would it take for the Marlins? Because I know he has an extreme, he's a very highly paid reliever. Yeah. If the White Sox were to trade him because he's not pitching well and he's, he costs too much, how much of that contract do you think the White Sox would have to eat in order for the Marlins to even consider a trade? Because the Marlins are not going to take his contract in full.
Yeah, at least half of it, at least like $8 million of it. And I imagine there's going to be other teams that would be willing to absorb more of it. That's an interesting one. It really is.
I mean, I saw today he got absolutely lit up. I think it's here, but spring training, so you take it with a grain of salt. But supposedly he didn't look good when they traded for him, and now he doesn't look like he's made any adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, what's so awkward about it is that he had a club option for this year. They could have declined it and just let him go. Yeah. And so it's going to be really hard for them to eat a lot of the money to trade him when they had that option a few months ago to just cut bait and not worry about it. The reason why, if they were willing to pick it up, then they must have felt pretty good about dumping most of the money and getting just anything real in return.
I'm just bringing it up because I saw it and I was just thinking if there's really no other trade option. I mean, Lou Trevino would be an option, but basically, there's nothing going on there. If not, I think Craig or Barry Jackson would have said something.
But he was someone who last year, sorry to cut you off there, Hector. He was someone that last year, once he got to the White Sox, he completely was a different pitcher. He struggled mightily. He was dominant with the Cubs in the first half. ERA under 0.5.
Is the White Sox park a hitter friendly or pitcher friendly?
And then
it's pretty neutral.
It's windy.
I think it's decent sized.
And as soon as he got to the White Sox, he pitched an ERA over 5. So that on top of his poor spring reporting that you're telling us, maybe
I think he gave up 5 runs and only recorded 2 outs. Like it was,
and you have to think Chicago's bullpen, the White Sox bullpen is really, really good, but
exactly.
you have
That's
so many closers. You have Graveman, who could be a closer. You have
forgot that they have Graveman.
Is it Hendricks? You have Liam Hendricks, who could be.
You still have Liam, who's probably the best closer.
I love Liam Hendricks.
And you have Craig Kimbrell, who has closer potential, and then you have Michael Kopech and some other guys in there. They have a lot of
closer potential. Craig Kimbrell was the best closer of our generation.
Well, you know what I mean. They have guys who have been closers, 3 closers with Graveman, Liam Hendricks, and Craig.
Who's the lefty from the University of Tennessee that throws like
Derek Crochet?
There it is. Yep.
Oh. Yes, 103. It's nasty.
They have to get rid of one, and I think it's going to be Kimbrell. But that's the thing. What do you give? Because that contract is pretty bad at the moment. I mean, what is it? 14 million or 11 million?
16 million.
16. If they eat half, I think the Marlins would entertain it. And
I would do it
because you probably don't have to give up anybody big because it's really more just like a salary for the White Sox because they don't really need him, especially if he's not a guy that's going to perform. What they're paying him, they'll eat half of his contract and just take like single way or double A prospect, just to see, we'll see what happens with this guy.
Just for half a year. So I think what's funny is I think Connor Scott would have been like a guy that he could have sent for someone like Craig Kimbrell.
Give him Brian Miller
along those lines.
Would you have taken half like Craig Kimbrell's contract you guys said, or have that contract the Braves just gave Kenley Jansen? Would you guys rather have that Jansen deal or have what Hector is projecting about or saying about Craig Kimbrell, potentially having him for half the money?
I would love to relay that question over to Eli because that's, we did talk about Jansen and his struggles post sticky stuff. We talked about Kimbrell's struggles in the second half of last year. I don't know who would be the safer bet. I think something's favoring Kimbrell maybe.
Yeah, I defaulted towards Jansen throughout the process just because of his familiarity with Donnie and with Kim, both of them going back over a decade with the Dodgers. Like, for whatever that's worth, and also for the fact that he wasn't as bad down the stretch as Kimbrell was last year, and he ultimately just gets a 1-year deal with no strings attached, no draft pick sacrifice to sign him either. That would have been my move for the Marlins. One that I guess seemed kind of unrealistic that they would ever pay that much money for any reliever. But if they were willing to do it for anybody, I thought Jansen was going to be that guy. It doesn't seem that they ever had a clear backup plan, or a good backup plan at least, for how to address this bullpen. Where we'll see what Nick Neidert does in there. But he's not. I've been high on him before, but hasn't quite been the same guy as he was earlier in his minor league days, and not a prototypical reliever to begin with anyway. So it's not a great situation with the pen. It really isn't.
Yeah, it's really bad. And the fact that we're talking about Will Stewart kind of puts an emphasis on it. I mean, I guess now with Sixto being hurt, which I guess you guys want to talk about here in a second, Will Stewart with Jorge Alfaro gone, Will Stewart is the only other guy, right? So is that them saying that we just want to get something out of the trade? Maybe. Is that them saying that we have nobody else, so let's try Will Stewart? Maybe. But as Kevin said, Holloway, I mean, they have one guy. I said this earlier. They have one guy. I think one guy in that bullpen right now that has plus velocity, and that's Anthony Bender. The rest of these guys are 94, maybe 96. So it's and you need guys that throw hard.
Velocity. There's no control.
I was going to say Pop.
Pop has Pop.
Yeah. At times. Yeah. At times. And he does have a good fastball. I like Zach Pop.
Easy.
I like Zach Pop. And you're right. But, I mean, like I said, it's not a ton, right? There's not a ton of hard throwers in this bullpen. And now you're adding in Nick Neidert, who's another soft toss guy. Talk about Will Stewart, where like Eli put up a tweet the other day. He threw a ball 2 feet out of the strike zone at 94, and everybody's like, oh my God, Will Stewart can throw 94 because that guy's 91, 92 while he's hitting 25 batters. So, I mean, it's a desperate situation for the bullpen right now. and it's not good. And it could be better with in-house options if they were to look at other guys like Tommy Eveld, who could be very good. I always talk about Colton Hawk, who I think is very good. But these guys aren't getting opportunities, and they're going to Will Stewart. Why? You'd have to ask Kim Mang that question. I don't see it in Will Stewart. You guys know I'm bullish on prospects that I like. I'll be equally bullish on prospects that I don't like, and Will Stewart is the guy that I do not like. So whatever, that is what it is.
Not to change the subject, but I just wanted to do some housekeeping. Somebody mentioning about the DFA situation with Monte and Isan. Coming up on Friday, the Marlins have to do something with Monte. That's when his window is closed. And with Isan, that might go all the way through the end of this week into next Tuesday, because that's when his DFA window officially closes. It's a 7-day window to work that out. I don't think, not expecting much from either player in exchange.
I think the one thing I want
to get in on that Will Stewart situation, because that's not a good situation to have. And like I said, the moves that they've made for the bullpen are very interesting, to say the least. That's all I got.
The one thing I want to say with the bullpen is that these contracts that we've seen these guys get in the bullpen, Colin McHugh, for example, it was a good deal. Like, the Marlins could have done that. I would have done that myself. They focused so much on the center fielder that they didn't even get to focus on, and they've lost almost every single bullpen option, which is just, it's yikes. That's all I could say at this point, because Marlins bullpen hasn't improved. I mean, the only thing that I like has been they put Nick Natter in it, which I'm a fan of. That's about it. That's it. They've done nothing else to this pen, and that's really bad. And I hope that Kim Mang Cruz was wrong and she made the right choice about to not go for a single free agent bullpen player that's not named Jimmy Yacobonis and who's the other one, Sean Armstrong, which had a good first impression. But besides that, it's just like, it's bad. If Miami makes a trade, hopefully it's a Kimbrough or a Trevino, because those guys would come in and solidify that bullpen a little bit more and help, and especially Kimbrough. And I'd feel a lot more confident going into the 9th inning having Craig Kimbrough than having a Dylan Fleur or a, whoever else is in that bullpen, because it's struggling right now. And if the Marlins plan on offensive first, you're going to score so many runs that the bullpen could shit the bed, and nothing's going to happen. That's bad. That's not good, and that's not what I want to see, because it's just not good.
And that's not really a good route to go. Just out hit it. People, that's probably
exactly. That's not how it should be.
Most of the game, because the best teams. I mean, yes, obviously the best teams hit, but
the Phillies are going to do that.
Also,
for example,
can pitch and
Panthers
play
are doing
defense.
And Hector, they said that verbatim, and this is the quote that sticks with me. And I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. This is a quote that sticks with me: is that we have to get the bat before we get the pitcher.
Yeah.
How bad of an approach is that? It's a very bad approach to an option. So
are they short staffed? Because if they need somebody just to look at relief pitchers, I mean, I'm available right now. I can, you can give me a call. I can watch them. I can tell you right now, Archie Bradley and Jake Deepman. That's all. Go get one of those
Bradley's
two guys.
Still available?
No, he's gone.
No, they're gone. They're gone.
I'm just saying, those guys would have been excellent additions to that bullpen. Those guys, they just are so focused on signing Jorge Soler, who it's a solid signing, but it's not. You could have done two things at the same time. There's no reason for you to. And I think Mish mentioned it in his podcast, Swings and Misses. That might have been a budget thing, but I mean, it's a bullpen.
No way.
It's going to ask you for a starting pitcher. This guy's going to cost you maybe $2 to $3 million a year. At most $5. It's not you're not really taking much. If you're a major league owner and you can't spend an extra $5 million on a quality bullpen arm, fix a major weakness on your team, then why you own a professional baseball team?
You have to remember the reason that they didn't re-sign Brendan Kinsler was that it was a difference over, I think it was $500,000. They like to pinch their pennies.
I mean, that's probably worked out for the best for the Marlins. I don't think Kinsler had
that worked out great.
So you can look at that one. I mean, at that one they could say, "Hey, look, we were right on that one," and they're absolutely right. Kinsler was, went to Philadelphia to fix the Phillies bullpen and literally just became a Phillies. Couldn't save.
He did go to a very hitter-friendly ballpark. Let's keep that in mind, because in Miami it was not it's a pitcher-friendly ballpark, but still.
And he's not a strikeout guy. He's a ground ball guy, and if he leaves the ball up, he's going to get absolutely torched. But a guy like Archie Bradley,
they didn't resign him,
I think he's good either ball in any ballpark, and he would have been a great addition. I think that was probably the number one option for me looking at free agent bullpen arms, RG probably would have been my number one guy.
Yeah.
Well, to put a
sorry, really
hold
quick.
on, go ahead. I was just gonna end it.
The last thing about the bullpen, the frustrating part is that you knew like one of your neighbors in Philadelphia in your division, they had a really, really shitty bullpen situation, and you let 3 to 4 guys who really could have helped your bullpen this year go straight to your division rival and made the Phillies bullpen way more competent. They got Knebel and they got all these guys, and the Mets too. Like all the National League East teams, they really improved their bullpen mightily, and Miami did absolutely nothing. So that's a frustrating part. But what can you do? They're confident in Zach Pop. Obviously, they're confident in Floro handling the ninth. So we'll see if it works out.
If that doesn't work out, it's going to be bad. That's all I'm going to say, because they're going to have to wheel and deal on that trade deadline at that bullpen. If that bullpen shots the bed, it's going to be bad. That's all.
After what happened last year,
enough to go from the inside.
They didn't.
Yep.
So for relievers, to put a bow on it, some of the relievers that are available for the Marlins do want to get, it's guys like Dylan Betances, Tyler Clippard, Tyler Chatwood.
Tyler Clippard's a good option.
Marlins' own Hall of Famer Ross Detweiler. Those are the guys that
we saw
available.
Old friend Steve Cishek was in town today.
Yeah,
so was
that could have been a great option. That could have been an
D.
option.
Strange Gordon now on his entire back of his uniform.
Yeah. Can I pivot to a happier topic or T-shirt giveaway?
Yes, we do that.
Yeah.
For predictions.
Yes. So yesterday, well, what was it on? Was it on Monday, Alex, that you rolled out the new merch for Fish on the Farm? Something like that.
Yeah, I was slow at first because I was having issues, but it's up now. It's all there now. It's ready to go. So, Kevin, I know you were the first person to get one, and I appreciate that. If there's an issue with it, I'll take care of you. I told you that.
Yeah,
anyway,
got it.
Yeah, as you can see on the screen, all you had to do was follow Alex's account at Marlins Miners, follow our prospect focus account at Fish Stripes, which is Fish Prospects, and tweet with the name of your favorite current Marlins prospect. That was the goal. Most people followed the instructions. Some didn't. So there was a whole lot. Griffin Conine in here. We got Max Meyer from Brian Bushman. There was a lot of Max Meyer, given what we've seen in the spring.
With Tanner Allen. With Tanner Allen.
Nassim Nunez, Jake Eater, JJ Bleday, Khalil
Watson, Sean Millerick.
There was a lot of Bledays, a lot of Watson,
Khalil,
Yuri Perez. Probably more Yuri than anybody else.
Victor.
Oh my God. That should be the one.
Do you think he did a typo adding another Victor?
There's Victor Mesa Jr. That's
all right. Here we go.
Yuri, nice.
More Max. Zach McCambly.
Nice one.
That's a nice one.
Tyler Mitzel, the reliever.
Who?
Anybody put?
That's a name.
That's a good one. Great change up on Tyler Mitzel. I like that pick.
Let's see if I get it. New ones in here. Tyler
Kolek.
Tyler Kolek.
Immediate disqualification, Cracker McGee. Sorry, buddy.
Ronald Hernandez, a young catcher, signed out of Venezuela, I believe.
That's my favorite pick so far that you read.
Cortez.
That's Jose Salas right there.
Oh. Hey,
Tanner Allen. Hey, I know that guy.
Tanner Allen.
I like that pick.
Navi with the goat.
Yeah, I love that Tanner pick.
Meyer.
Also immediately disqualified.
He should have been.
Oh, Jamie.
Nice.
Hey, that's me.
No, I really went.
A lot of Yuris.
Hey, George Soriano. There we go.
It's a good pick, Kevin.
I think.
I'm telling you guys. Like me and Daniel were one of the first to call out that name, and Daniel Alvarez as well, because he knows his international stuff.
I think we've reached the end of the.
Oh wait, I think there's one more.
Sean Reynolds.
JJ, Max Meyer, Max. A lot of Maxes.
This was posted like right after Max Meyer
did
his thing, so like there was a lot of recency bias, mostly for me.
I think that Tanner Allen guy has the best chance.
He's the winner.
Hold on. Let's see if we can find the winner that I selected prior to the show. It is.
Oh,
Hey.
John, if you're watching, Marlins John on Twitter. He's great on Twitter. He runs his own Discord as well.
I'm gonna go wake him up.
he is our winner. I will be in touch with you, John, about your shirt size, your shirt preference. There are 4 types of shirts, 4 designs in the Fish on the Farm store to choose from, and we'll get that sent out to you real soon. So thank you, everybody, for participating and for following our accounts. It's just getting started. We are about 2 weeks away from minor league opening day. It's going to get crazy.
Thank you for doing that, Eli. That was your idea. You're the one that set it up. I let you put out the tweet. That was really cool. So thank you.
Which one are you gonna pick, John? Which one interests you the most?
Yeah, we need to find out, John.
All right, so going to predictions. I had a fun idea for you guys. Since we got Jorge Soler, a big thing that he adds is power. Power equals home runs. So I wanted to ask all of you guys, the panel, who will lead the Marlins in home runs this year? My prediction is Garrett Cooper hits 37 home runs. Wow. That is my take. Garrett Cooper leads the Marlins 37. Isaac.
It's recorded. It's recorded.
Yeah, clip that.
It's also bold prediction, kind of.
Yeah. I'm going to answer the question who I think is genuinely going to lead the team in home runs. And, I hate to be so obvious, but I definitely think, without a doubt, Jorge Soler is going to lead the team in home runs. I think he's going to hit 36. I don't think Cooper's going to hit 37. But I think Cooper's going to have a great year, huge year. But I think Jorge Soler leads the team in home runs.
I'm going with the other signing. I'm going Avisail Garcia with 35 bombs this season.
35. Nice. Eli?
I am also going with Avi Garcia.
Yeah.
Let's say 31. 31 for Avi.
Okay.
It's a better improvement.
Hector?
I'm gonna go with the Cuban. I gotta go with my Cuban brother. I gotta go Jorge Soler. I'm gonna go 38 bombs, and he's gonna drive in 107 RBIs.
Oh,
I had to go with Garrett Cooper because I had him in the bold prediction, so I at least had to keep that consistent. Alex,
I have to walk back mine.
I think this is the year that we finally see a healthy Garrett Cooper. I think a healthy Garrett Cooper hits over 35 home runs. I'm not quite ready to say 40 yet, but I definitely think it'll be closer to 40 than 35.
Nice. Alex Carver.
Cryptoconine.
No, I want to say Jesus Sanchez, but he has questions to answer for sure. Definitely not going to go with him to lead the team. I think he could hit at least 20 if he gets everyday playing time, and it looks like he is going to, at least to start. But I'll go away from him because he's got questions to answer. He needs to hit the all field a little bit more, temper the strikeout rate a little bit. So for my pick, I'll agree with Eli and whoever else said it. I think Isaac, and say Avi Garcia.
I said it.
Or Kevin's. Excuse me. Sorry. I'll say Avi Garcia. I'll say he hits 34 home runs and leads the team.
Okay.
Oh,
no, if you say Brian De La Cruz hits 57
so I have
home
to walk.
runs.
So that was before the Jorge Soler signing, I must say. So now Brian
your
De La Cruz
prediction
isn't gonna get much playing time now. So it's probably gonna be Jorge Soler with about 35.
Okay, nice.
That's me being realistic. I still think it'll be Brian De La Cruz with 30, but listen.
If Brian De La Cruz hits 30 homers, we all should dye your hair blue.
I'll run around people park naked.
I'll dye my hair pink.
No, now I really don't want him to hit 30 home runs.
Well, that does it here for Fish Stripes Live. First, we want to apologize for anyone with the technical difficulties. We got that figured out with StreamYard. Hopefully, it won't happen next time. For Isaac, Kevin, Eli, Hector, Alex Kirchhoff, Alex Carver, Noah, I'm Daniel. We are Fish Stripes Live, presented by Loop, LOUPE, and see you next Wednesday.
Why bother with empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket? With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show in your pocket.